Every night, I lay my head down. I close my eyes, and I rest. But I always rest too late. In the modern day, I'm much too busy to allow myself to lose hours in the day that could be spent doing something, making something, or simply enjoying something. And unfortunately, this is the price I pay for such a privilege. Every night, I dream about sunshine. I remember the days of sunshine, and I remember enjoying those days. But I'd never thought I'd miss it so much to have it appear in my sleep. Every night. Every day, I wake up at 7. And despite myself knowing better, knowing that a full 8 hours might do me better, I still always rest too late. The exhaustion sets in as I tell myself for the third time this week, maybe I should go to bed earlier. And yet, before I know it, it's 7 a.m. again, and I repeat the cycle. Every morning, I wake up to the gentle sounds of rain. It's soothing. Almost too soothing. And combined with my late rest, the rainfall is almost a detriment to my sleep schedule. I have too much to do every morning, and I cannot allow myself to be engulfed in the sounds of nature in its purest form, lest I subconsciously prioritize my bed over the waking, working world. Suddenly, the rain sounds fade away, and that's when I remember the illusion that I created for myself to make up for my poor choices. The device near my bed mimicking the sounds once used as a source of comfort have now become the sound of monotony. The sounds that used to be reminiscent of a slow day, a day to relax and stay indoors, have transformed into the sounds of missed opportunities, the sounds of a day that you thought couldn't get any worse, and the sounds of wrath from a god who has abandoned all that you can see around you. Eventually, these sounds, despite being only white noise, developed a pattern. Eventually, I had listened to the same sounds from this same machine enough to hear when it loops, and I had become desensitized to them. Yet I had not gotten sick of them. It's been 8 whole years, and still it is so beautiful. You could imagine my shock each and every time the man-made sounds of illusionary precipitation would fade away, only to be met with the nectar of Mother Nature herself staring me right in the face, right outside my window. Sometimes it would merely be a drizzle, almost invisible to the eye until you take 10 steps out the door and realize you're going to need a jacket today. Other times, the storm makes itself obvious before you've even opened your eyes, and you pray for traffic to be manageable during this torrent. You might notice only a dusting of rain on your car's windshield, or each drop of water might soil the very soil your home was built on, and no one wants to walk around with muddy shoes. Day ruined. Depending on the time of year, you might be unfortunate enough for your beautiful manifestation of hydration to freeze over and now everything is a slipping hazard. God help you if your driveway is on a hill. But despite all of this, it's still beautiful. Sometimes the overwhelming presence of rain is, well, overwhelming. Sometimes I just wish for a day of sunshine, or even just a glimpse of it from time to time. I remember the days where I thought that if it were raining all the time, I would be at peace. But maybe that was because I was so used to the sight of sunlight, and the rain was meant as a break. A break from all the crowded traffic, a break from people, a break from everything. When everyone is under the weather, both metaphorically and literally, it feels like the world opens up in a weird way. Sure, making my way to these locations might be a bit cumbersome, but once I'm there, I get to be one of the few people to enjoy the ambiance around me, and I get to be one of the few to hear the sweet, sweet sounds of real rain. As I get closer to my destination, however, more and more of the sounds of downtown make their way to me. Semi-trucks become more prevalent, and everything just becomes noisier. The overwhelming presence of people in the modern era is, well, overwhelming. Cars honking, sirens blaring, engines revving. Sometimes it is just too much. So it's nice to know that even during these times, I can always count on the rain to drown it all out. I may have some music playing, I may even have an audiobook in the background, but when I turn all that down, all I hear is the rain, and nothing else. No overwhelming sounds, no auditory overstimulation. The semis that belch black smoke into the air? You can't completely ignore them, but they'll at least be overshadowed in sound alone by the ever-present rain, and that makes everything just a little bit easier to take in. Where I used to get annoyed by people blaring music at max volume from 3 cars over, now I have solace in knowing that Earth's everlasting storm can indefinitely eliminate that issue. While I can't deny how much the rain can inconvenience my day, it still remains very beautiful. Who can talk about the rain without talking about its angelic smell? The smell of the oils and the minerals in the dirt is a smell that my ancestors would kill to be able to experience the way that I can. I'm surprised they haven't even distilled this scent into a candle with how plentiful it is. Petrichor. Such a beautiful name for such an ethereal experience. The days where mountain camping trips were the norm, I had always prayed for just enough rain to catch a whiff of it. When rain would interrupt my workday, I had never been more excited to leave the industrial area and embrace the purest smell in nature upon my arrival home. My condolences to those who have never had the opportunity to experience this scent because it is oh so sweet and oh so beautiful. When I think of all my senses that are activated during a storm, my sense of smell is easily the most pleased every time. Rain is an introvert's best friend, and on days where work has been not the kindest to me, I might retreat to the safety of my car for a little bit and be an introvert. Days like this are not common, but braving the storm to sit in my car gives me time to cool off and allow the sounds of nature to wash over me. The reassuring pitter-patter on my car calms me in a way that no other element can, and the interesting sound of a raindrop falling on my window brings me back to when I was a child, and for some reason I feel like the rain was more stressful for me as a child than I remember. I remember when things used to be simpler, and on a rainy day I could spend more time working on arts and crafts, or finishing that album I wanted to listen to, or even just play some games and ignore my responsibilities. As a child, pushing everything off for one day never felt that punishing, and now I feel like I can't even go 20 minutes without my responsibilities catching back up to me. In times like now, I can fully be one with my inner child and reminisce on what made rain so beautiful all those years ago. In the past, sunshine meant a time for everyone to go out there, eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow they could die. Being a person who never really engaged with people like that, rain meant a time where I could engage in deep conversations with my friends under the safety of my own roof. A time where I would learn more about the people I love in a way that makes the most sense to me. Of course, I don't wish the extroverts any harm, and I hope that one day you have a time where you get to have your precious sunshine back. Because a person like me, enveloping myself in sorrow gloomy weather is certainly going against the grain. Over time, I've seen those that used to engage in the extroverted lifestyle become shells of their former self. You can imagine how a never-ending storm must have taken a toll on their bodies and their minds. And, sometimes I see myself feeling the same. But I make the best of what I have, I guess. You'd think that after years of this sudden climatic change that we as a society would have gotten used to it and adapted to it. In some ways we have. We've mostly resolved the flooding issue with better drainage, and we've learned to stop hoarding the shit like it's gold. But in some ways we still haven't. Because heavy showers are the new normal, people haven't quite gotten used to what an acceptable amount of downpour is when deciding whether or not to call off an event, and somehow waterproofing still hasn't become an entirely normal, almost necessary service. Malls and bars have seen a significant decline in revenue and patronage, with fewer people being willing to even brave the trip there, even in the most tame of storms. People were already skittish about driving in the rain before it became commonplace, and it looks like it's going to take an entire generation before people will get used to the new normal. In regions where rain was already plentiful, we see basically no change. And in regions once considered to be a constant drought, many of those civilizations have had to pack up and leave, lest their infrastructure crumble above and below them to the biggest change their bloodline has ever seen. The 18% of the population who still have to walk everywhere are certainly not very happy about what's happened here, but given the circumstances that led them there in the first place, what choice did they really have other than just to deal with it? I'll give credit where credit is due. At least we as a society are also pushing for more pedestrian-friendly walkways to accommodate this kind of situation, but anyone in the suburbs and the strictly rural areas will not be receiving any of these accommodations anytime soon. I'm just glad I don't have to walk everywhere, so I'm not nearly as upset about this whole situation. In recent times, we've seen plenty of news stories headlining showing off people who are going mad over basically anything. From constantly being inconvenienced by wet clothes, to people literally strapping themselves to lightning rods, thinking a sacrifice will bring an end to an otherwise endless shower. There isn't much talk of religion around this area, but now 2 new cults have arisen. One composed of people praising this fictional god of the new world, and the other comprised of all these people who are clinically insane in everything but name, almost existing as a direct inverse to the prior, even going so far as to push for religious and government anarchism. These people are so mad that they truly believe that if there is a deity, they'll be the ones to kill it. Where the first cult has killed their old gods and replaced them with new ones in an attempt to understand whatever underlying force exists out there, the other still believes in their old gods and would prefer to die in the pursuit of killing whoever or whatever we have now. Cults are not a joke, but I can't help to chuckle at these two at least a little bit. I mean, I love my rain and all, but I would not join a cult dedicated to it. That is just insane. Maybe one of the most bizarre phenomena to get used to is remembering that the sun is still there. It's just overshadowed by the constant cloud coverage, so even though every day is gloomy and dark and it sucks, people like me still receive consistent sunburns around the summer months. If anything, it's actually worse now than ever because the rain is still consistently washing away any sunscreen that I may have applied that wasn't covered up by a long sleeve or a hoodie. It almost feels spiteful in a way. You know, even though we've been subjected to an eternity of rain, we won't be allowed to experience it in its purest form. Despite no legitimate proof of a god, much less a punishing one, it feels like whatever deity might exist up there decided to keep all the harmful aspects of the sun, but will never even allow us the opportunity to bathe in its golden glow. It almost feels like maybe we took what we had for granted many years ago. We misbehaved on some cosmic level, and we never even gave credit where credit was due for the divine creation of every element, every animal, each and every person on the face of this planet. And maybe this is our punishment. But as it stands, no one can really say for certain, so I really have to wonder, what did we really do to deserve this? I mean, seriously, it's been 8 whole years, and the monotony is getting too much. The constant water damage to my home is too much. I'm tired of these stupid fucking drivers not knowing how to drive when there's even a drop of rain on the road. I hate that younger me used to wish for a time like this, and sometimes I blame myself for its occurrence. Every night I think about what everyone around me would do if they ever found out that I may have even had something to do with this, that I may have been the cause of all of this. I miss the days where I could go for a nightly walk and not have to bundle myself up to keep mostly dry. I hate that even with a change as massive as this, it hasn't led to any notable innovation or improvement in anything. It's just further proven that if we wanted to do any of this stuff 8 years ago, we could have, and we just chose not to. Somehow, where we could see humans constantly striving to be better over the entire history of humans as a species, we've hit a stagnation. We've given up, and we've allowed ourselves to be bested by such a simple thing. I hate that life feels the same every day. I wake up to rain, I get used to its patterns. I look out the window, I see rain. I drive to work, I see a crash on the freeway. I get to work, the rain knocks out my power. I leave work, it's cold. I drive home, another car crash. I get home, there's another hole in my roof. My family gets home, I hear the same complaints. I try to play some games, my internet dies. I try to record a voiceover, my power dies again. I try to make dinner, and the thunder riles up everyone in the house. I want to take a walk to clear my head, and I can't even do that in peace. I need to go to bed, but I have more work to do. It's only midnight and I'm too busy, so I can't go to bed yet, but I eventually finish what I have to do, and I go to bed, and I once again wonder if all of this is my fault. I turn on the device to reminisce on how life used to be, and the cycle continues another day. I'm fucking exhausted. I feel like this has to be my fault, and somehow this is God's way of punishing me.